Hello! It's been exactly a month since my 50-mile race, and so I thought it would be a good time to do a race recap. Talk about some things that I learned from the race, some things I wish I could have done better, and then just overall recap the race. So before I get into the actual race, I wanted to set the scene a little bit. So it was my first ultra ever, so my first 50, first ultra. So I've done 3 marathons before this. The most recent one was back in May, and so I pretty much I took a little bit of a break in between the marathon, and then before I started just continuing my training is basically what I did. So because I've never done an ultra before, I had my highest mileage I've ever had while training for this, and so at my peak week I actually was suffering from a pretty intense foot injury. I believe it was my I can't say it right, but that tendon and my foot was acting up, and I think it's just an overtraining issue basically. I've been running on a lot of concrete, and I just think I probably wasn't taking the proper care of that. And I had never experienced that before, so it was pretty serious. My peak week, like I said, so it was during my longest run I started experiencing the pain, and I was very nervous for my race because of that. I actually almost dropped down in my race length to the 50K or to the marathon because I was nervous about it hurting during the race because it was pretty unbearable to run in. So luckily it was during my peak week, so I was able to basically, I just really extremely tapered, more than I would have normally, and then I got dry needling done also. So I'd never gotten that done before. Fast forward the weekend of the race, I live in Colorado, but the race was in Washington. My little sister just recently moved to Bellingham, which is about 2 hours from where I started, which was near Snoqualmie Pass. My husband and I stayed in South Clay Elm, I believe that's how you say it, at like a little B&B, and it was really cute. I would definitely recommend staying there, and it was extremely close to the starting line, which was really nice. I didn't have to take a bus to the start like a lot of people did. I actually got super great sleep that night, which I really think was a big helping factor in how my race went, because I have never gotten good sleep before a race before, so that was great. And then the morning of the race, I had been expecting to feel like extremely anxious, but again I felt really calm. Actually, I had a really nice slow morning, had some coffee and my breakfast, and I read a book in bed for a little bit, so just like super relaxing, try to get my mind right and prepare myself for the long day ahead. Then it was the start of the race. It came pretty quickly, and the start was great. It was pretty, most races it was pretty packed in the beginning. It was dark when we started, because I started at 6 a.m. So right away, it was, for the first 3 miles it was like quite a bit of people around, and then it started to kind of thin out. I ran alone for a while, just kind of again focused on eating early and drinking early, because again I was nervous about consuming food, and so I was focusing on that. I had read somewhere or seen, I think on a YouTube, maybe a few YouTube videos, that people recommend usually starting with eating like real food if you can, because as you go longer and you're out there longer, it's harder to consume real food. So maybe towards the end of the race you're having gels or chews or something, but then towards the beginning then you can actually like eat real food. So that's what I did. I started eating the mini Stinger waffles. Totally recommend those, because I love the waffles. They're super easy on my stomach, but they're so big and they always break and stuff. So the mini ones I just put in like a little Ziploc bag and ate them. So it was like 1 bite, which was great. Then I found like a little pack that I started to run with. It was like 4 or 5 people, and we ran together from about mile 6 to 11. So that was really nice to have those people help the time go by a little bit faster, and we all were running about the same pace. So that was good and encouraging. Then at mile 11 was my first crew access aid station, so my family got to be there for that. It just made me feel so good to see everybody. I refilled all my food and my liquids and stuff, which was great. Something I wish I would have done was give my crew a tour of my vest, because like mile 11 all of a sudden I'm like, I need this and this and this, and they don't know where everything is, and I was like, oh, can you grab my phone back there, or can you grab this? And they didn't know where all the pockets were and stuff, and so they did a great job, and it was like not really that big of an issue, but I think they all would have appreciated knowing a little bit more about what was in my vest and where all the pockets were. Like, they didn't even know how to do like my water flasks or anything. So next time I will be doing that. After I left the aid station, I joined some of the people that I had run with from mile 6 to 11. They were leaving the aid station around the same time, so I joined up with them again. At this point, I was definitely feeling tired, but not bad and still no pain. Again, at this point, I was really just waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, I was just like, when is my foot going to start hurting? Because I just kept expecting it to come. So it was definitely a weird mindset balance between like not manifesting the pain to come and not to like dwell on that coming, but also to prepare myself mentally and physically for when the pain did come. So it was definitely a mental battle, trying to figure out how to balance those two things. And then around mile 18, my pack kind of split up. Some people fell behind me, some people went ahead of me, and so I ran solo for a while, which was good. Kind of, again, it felt good to kind of get my thoughts right and kind of continue preparing my body for what was coming, because stuff was coming. Around this point, I started eating, I started to eat my granola bars. I believe they're Kate granola bars, that's what I think they're called. I trained with those, and so again, they have a little bit more protein in them than the Stinger waffles, and so I was like thinking that I probably should have some more proteins. Around mile 21, I fell, and it really wasn't a big deal, but it definitely, like, you know, when you fall and you're running, it's just like kind of like shakes you awake a little bit. So my heart was pounding a little bit more just from like the adrenaline from falling, but it was fine. I didn't have any scrapes on my hand. I cut my knee a little bit. I still have a little bit of a scab. But it wasn't too bad. Worked out well though, because there was an aid station right over there. So at that aid station, I got some potato chips that I ate. Again, still eating the Stinger waffles. I am so glad that I had those, because I wasn't sure what I was going to be feeling like, and those sounded good almost the whole race. So I was really glad that I had plenty of those. For the whole race, so I ran with a Salomon vest with the two 16-ounce flasks in the front. So one of them was always filled with water, and then one was always filled with liquid IV. Then I hit mile 25, and it was definitely a bittersweet feeling being at the halfway point. There. I say bittersweet because it was like, wow, I'm halfway, that feels so good, but also like, oh my gosh, I still have to run 25 miles, and I've already run 25 miles. So that was a point where I needed to adjust my mindset quite a bit, because I was starting to fall into that oh no, I still have to run this much. So I took some of my mantras that I had been that I put in my back pocket to use for times like this. One of my mantras that I have stolen from my dad, who I'll talk about a little bit more later, is it's amazing how far you can get by taking one step at a time. So I just kept remembering that and not focusing on what was to come, just focusing on my one step at a time. So that was good. Mile 25 is also when I really started to appreciate my training, because in my marathons, my past marathons, you know, even by mile like 17, I was starting to hurt quite a bit. My legs were tired and sore, and I think obviously I was going a lot faster in those marathons, and also a few of them were road races, so the pounding of the pavement definitely impacts how your legs are feeling, at least for me. And so that was a lot of it, but a lot of it also was that I put in the work, I put in the training, and I could definitely feel that at mile 25, because again, my legs were tired, but it was not nearly as bad as it could have been or as it has been in the past. So that was really encouraging. Then I crossed the 27-mile mark, which felt so good, because that was the farthest I'd ever gone, because again, for my peak week training, I ended up not being able to complete my 27-mile run because of my foot pain. So it was officially the longest I'd ever gone. It just felt so good to go that distance, and I was trying not to be overwhelmed by what I had to do, but at that moment I felt like, yes, I can do this. Like, this far as I've ever run, and it felt pretty encouraging. Then at mile 29, I was able to pick up my sister as a pacer. I was pretty surprised that this race particularly let you have pacers, because even though the distance is there, it's a pretty easy course to follow, and it's not as like treacherous as some of the other 50s and 100s I know that exist in the world. So I was pretty surprised but thankful, because I again got to run with my sister. I know that I could have done it without her, but having her was really nice, and then she got to go for a run with me also, so it was just kind of fun. Right after I picked her up, we ran through a 2.5 mile long tunnel, which was pretty overwhelming. I ran through this tunnel during my first marathon, which was on the same similar course as this race, but when I ran through the first time, it was at mile like 5 maybe. So running through it at mile 5 versus running it at mile 30 to 32 was very different. I felt pretty like just a little disoriented, and I was starting to feel like not claustrophobic, but just like I really want to get out of this tunnel. My legs were tired, I was worried about tripping, and so getting out of there felt a lot better. Around this time I also started to feel a little nauseous, so it was again good to have my sister there, who was reminding me I need to be focused on eating and drinking, and so at this point I started to eat Honey Stinger chews, which I also trained with, and that seemed to give myself some quick energy and fill my stomach enough that I didn't feel as nauseous. Then together we crossed the 41-mile marker, which felt so good because it meant I had single digits left, which was just like truly an unreal feeling. It was like the first time where again I hadn't had any knee pain or foot pain. Sorry, I had to switch to my phone because my memory card was full and I don't have any more with me, so switch to the phone. But felt so good only to have single digit miles left. I felt like, wow, I could really do this, because again, the whole time I had been thinking, like, waiting for my foot to hurt, and it just never came. So I was like, okay, even if it starts hurting now, like I can run through 9 miles of pain. Like I just knew that I could. And then at mile, I believe 42 and a half, I had another crew station, and I picked up my dad as my second pacer, which was super fun because my dad is actually my inspiration for running ultras. He is a huge runner and used to be a really big ultra runner. He's done tons of 50s, and he did the Leadville 100 4 times, and is just a super great runner, and so he was really the inspiration for me to do this. So to be able to run the last 8 with him was just so surreal, and felt just a different kind of excitement for that. For the last like 5 miles too, I started to feel like pretty teary-eyed, just because it was so overwhelming thinking how far I'd gone, and knowing like I was going to finish was a pretty surreal feeling. So I was starting to get emotional. Also, I imagine the hormones and stuff, just I was so drained, was also like really affecting me, like not in a bad way, just like it was interesting to see my emotions really starting to come up. So my watch also got a little bit messed up in the tunnel, so it was a little bit unclear how far I had to go. It turned out it wasn't too far off. I believe it was like half a mile off from what it was supposed to be. So luckily we figured out before we got too close, and I thought I was almost done, but I wasn't. But again, then approaching the finish line, I didn't know exactly how far we had to go. So, but I started to see some flags and stuff, and I knew I was about a quarter mile away. So that was just an amazing feeling. And then across the finish line, I was able to run it in, which I truly did not know if I would be able to after running that many miles before I had started all this. So being able to truly run in felt so good. And although I was so tired and exhausted, I really felt pretty good. Like looking back, I really think I could have done it faster if I had just known how my body would handle that many miles. I just had no idea. So I took it super conservatively, and it felt pretty good though to be done and to be able to still walk around. Like I feel like I could have sat on the ground and gone back up by myself at the finish, which I just cannot say for any of my marathons. So again, that probably was because of really a good proper training, and also my marathons were on asphalt, and so that does a number on your limbs. I was pretty emotional at the end also, just again because of all the hormones and stuff, I imagine, but it was just such an incredible feeling. And then it was time for recovery. So luckily, because my dad is an avid, what used to run tons of ultras, he gave me some pretty good advice for recovery and some things to expect. So here is that information for you in case you need it. He said that in his experience, which it was very similar for me, falling asleep that night was super easy. Like the first night of the race, and even the first night and then 3 nights after that, maybe falling asleep, easy. Like you're so exhausted, you fall asleep. But just because of the adrenaline, I imagine, and just your muscles being so tired, you wake up in the middle of the night a few times, and it's kind of a restless sleep. For me, it was like the 3 nights maybe after the race were pretty restless sleeping. I didn't get great sleep. So I was glad that I knew that, but I definitely didn't know the extent of what that would look like. Like I would wake up and like, because my muscles were like sort of like cramping, I think is really what it was. It wasn't like extremely painful, but it was just like really uncomfortable feeling enough that again it woke me up. So I was glad to have known that. And I also woke up with hunger pangs, I think is what people, is like a term that people use. Or I woke up like maybe two nights after the race and was just starving at like in the middle of the night. So like the first night I think I woke up at like midnight and was like starving, and then again at like 4 a.m. and then again at 6 a.m. Just like I could eat everything in sight. And then since then I have been taking it super easy. It's been definitely nice to have a break from training, like especially training for the ultra it's a lot of time and effort that you have to put into it, and like it's definitely, you can be flexible again, because I missed some long runs because of my foot and being on vacation and stuff, but you really need to be pretty rigid with your training. And so being able to just run when I want to was really nice. And so it's been again exactly a month since the race, and I'm feeling totally recovered, and I am already starting itching to get back into training, which is a great feeling. And I just don't know what to do next. So if you have any ideas for races for me, what to do next, I would love some suggestions. And let me know if you have any questions about the race, or if you want me to expand on anything. And thank you for being here and watching. And good luck if you're in the middle of training for something or thinking about signing up for a race. You can totally do it. When I started running, I couldn't even run like a mile. It was a run walk mile back in college, and now I just ran 50 miles. So you can do anything that you put your mind to. It just takes a little bit of effort, or a lot of effort and patience. So you can do it, and thanks for watching.